What if the person who understands your pain the most is someone you're never supposed to love? In Season 8 of Outlander, Claire finds herself pulled into a storm she never expected. Jamie is her rock, but even the strongest rocks can crack under pressure. And when a stranger with a familiar sadness in his eyes appears, something inside her begins to shift. This isn't just about attraction, it's about fate. And the dangerous power of a heart that wants more. Season 8 begins with tension already, running high. The war is closer than ever, and danger grows with every passing day. Claire and Jamie have made it through so many battles, both in war and in love. But now, things feel different. There's a heaviness in the air. A new kind of silence in their home. Jamie spends long hours helping the rebels, training men and preparing for what's to come. Claire, left behind to treat the wounded and run the homestead, tries to stay strong. But the loneliness begins to whisper in her ear. One day, while tending to a small group of injured soldiers brought in from a nearby skirmish, Claire notices a man lying quietly in the corner. He doesn't speak at first. He watches her, calm but alert, as if he knows her somehow. His name is Lieutenant Thomas Ashwood, a British soldier captured in the last fight. Unlike the others, he doesn't struggle or plead. He simply listens especially. To Claire. Claire finds herself curious. There's something about the way he looks at her, not with fear, not with hate, but with something gentler. She tries to shake it off. She reminds herself of who she is, of who Jamie is. But late at night, when she's alone with her thoughts, the image of Thomas's eyes keeps returning. Jamie notices a change. Claire seems distracted, not cold, not cruel, but far away. He asks her what's wrong, and she tells him it's the war, the pressure, the endless pain of seeing so much death. Jamie believes her. After all, she's seen more than most. But Claire knows the truth is heavier than that. It's not just about the war. It's about someone she doesn't want to think about. Days pass, and Thomas begins to recover. He speaks softly, rarely, but when he does, his words carry weight. He knows things about medicine, about science, about places he shouldn't know. Claire's instincts flare. Could he be like her, a traveler? She doesn't ask, not yet. But the seed of suspicion is planted. Claire tries to keep her distance, but the lines blur quickly. One afternoon, while changing his bandages, Thomas says something simple. "You look tired?" Claire is caught off guard. It's not flirtation, it's concern, real concern. The kind that feels rare in these brutal times. As more rebel soldiers arrive and the house grows crowded, Claire finds herself spending more time with the wounded and with Thomas. She justifies it as duty, nothing more. But in her heart, she knows it's becoming more than that. She finds herself listening to his stories, his thoughts on war, peace, and loss. He speaks with a calmness that soothes her, a sadness that mirrors her own. Then something strange happens. Claire catches him reading one of her books, one she thought she kept hidden. It's not just a book, it's one that belonged to Brianna. A book from the future. She confronts him quietly. He doesn't lie. He just closes the book and looks at her, as if waiting for her to say what they're both thinking. That night, Claire lies beside Jamie, but her mind is far away. She's not planning anything. She's not trying to betray him. But her heart is confused. Her world is changing again, and she doesn't know why this stranger has started to feel familiar. And so the first crack appears small, almost invisible, but dangerous. Because in a world where time can bend and hearts can wander, even the smallest crack can lead to a break too wide to fix. There's something in the way he speaks too. Calm for a prisoner, too wise for a soldier. Thomas Ashwood isn't like the others, and Claire knows it. She tries to treat him like any patient, but every word he says pulls her deeper into a mystery she doesn't want to face. One morning, as the sun cuts through the fog outside, Claire walks into the barn-turned hospital and finds Thomas already awake, sitting up, reading one of the history books from her private chest. The problem is, it's not a book from his time. She stands frozen. That book about 20th century medicine should mean nothing to him. But he reads it like it's familiar, like it's normal. When Claire finally asks how he even knew where it was, Thomas doesn't panic. He simply says, "You're not the only one who's fallen through time." That changes everything. Claire feels her stomach drop. For years, she believed time travel was something rare, something that belonged to her, Brianna, Roger, but now this man, this stranger, sits in front of her like a mirror. He doesn't try to explain everything. He only tells her he came through. Near Culloden, that he had no control over it, that he's been hiding in plain sight, watching history, trying not to change it, but failing. And worst of all, he knows who Claire is. He's read about her, heard the stories, followed her journey without ever planning to meet her. Claire is shaken. Her hands tremble, not out of fear but confusion. Why now? Why him? She asks if he knew about Jamie, if he knew he'd end up here. Thomas says, "No, I wasn't supposed to meet you. I wasn't supposed to speak to you, but I was dying and somehow I ended up in your care." As the days pass, Claire becomes torn between reason and instinct. She tells herself it's just fascination, curiosity about someone like her. But deep down, something warmer is growing. She hates it. She resists it. But late at night, when the wind howls and the candles flicker low, she finds herself thinking of him, not Jamie. She sees how Thomas watches her, not with desire, but understanding. Like he sees all the broken pieces inside her and doesn't want to fix them, just hold them. He doesn't ask for more. He never pushes. But in the quiet moments when their eyes meet, it feels like the air itself holds its breath. Then comes the moment that changes everything. Jamie is called away on a sudden mission, 2 weeks at most. Claire is left behind to tend the wounded. One evening, a small skirmish breaks out nearby. The rebel camp is attacked. Claire rushes out to help, and Thomas insists on coming with her. He's still weak, but he won't let her go alone. In the chaos, a musket fires. A tree crashes down. Claire falls, nearly pinned. It's Thomas who lifts her up, shielding her body with his own. His arm bleeds again, but he doesn't care. He just looks at her like she's the only thing that matters. That night, after the danger passes, Claire patches him up in silence. Their hands touch, her fingers linger. He whispers, "You remind me of something I lost, something I thought I'd never feel again." Claire pulls away. She wants to run, to scream, to cry. But she does none of it. She simply sits there, her heart beating too fast, her breath caught in her throat. It's not love. Not yet, but it's something, and it's coming fast. When Jamie returns, the house feels smaller. The walls closer. Claire kisses him, holds him. But a piece of her is missing. A part she can't explain. She's not ready to tell him, not yet. She doesn't know what she'd even say. All she knows is this: a storm is coming. Not from the battlefield, but from within. And no one, not even Claire, knows who will survive it. It began as silence. A silence too heavy, too loud to ignore. Claire tried to keep her mind busy, her hands steady, but her heart was no longer her own. Jamie was home now, his presence strong, his love unchanged. Yet something inside Claire was shifting, like the soft crack of ice before it breaks. And at the center of it all was Thomas Ashwood. He didn't ask for anything. He never crossed a line. But that's what made it worse. He was gentle, kind, quiet, and that quiet started to haunt her. Claire tried to pretend, to bury the growing thoughts in her head. But when Jamie kissed her now, she felt the guilt bloom like a bruise. Not because of something she had done, but because of something she was starting to want. It came to a boiling point one cold evening. The snow had begun to fall, blanketing the land outside. The house was warm with firelight, but Claire's soul felt cold and split. She stepped outside for air, wrapping herself in a shawl, walking far enough to see the edge of the woods. And there, under the trees, stood Thomas. He was watching the sky, hands folded behind his back, breath rising like smoke in the chill. She should have turned around. But she didn't. She walked toward him. Neither spoke for a long time. The wind whispered through the trees. Then softly, Thomas said, "I've tried not to feel it, but it won't stop." Claire knew what he meant, and it terrified her. "I have Jamie," she whispered, as if saying it could make this feeling disappear. Thomas nodded. "I know." And that's why I haven't said a word until now. The silence that followed was heavy with everything they weren't allowed to say. Claire looked at him, at his wounded arm wrapped in bandage, his jaw bruised, his eyes still full of something ancient. Something lonely, something that looked just like her. And in that moment, she wasn't a healer, she wasn't a wife. She was just a woman, trembling. She stepped back. But he didn't move. I can't, she said. I'm not asking you. Two, he answered. Then without planning it, without thinking, Claire leaned in and kissed him. It was quick. Barely more than a breath. But it happened. She pulled back immediately, stunned by her own weakness. Her hand rose to her lips as if to erase the moment, but it was too late. The truth had been spoken not in words, but in that kiss. A confession. That could ruin everything. I'm sorry, she whispered. Thomas didn't answer. He didn't smile. He just looked at her like someone who had already accepted pain as a part of love. Claire ran. She didn't stop until she was back inside her home, her chest burning, her breath shaky. Jamie was inside, reading by the fire. He looked up at her with warmth in his eyes, love that had never failed her. And for the first time in years, Claire felt like a stranger in her own skin. The next morning, she avoided Thomas. The next week, she avoided herself. But secrets don't die quietly. And guilt always finds a way to rise. Jamie started noticing. The way Claire flinched at his touch. The way she avoided eye contact. The way she spent more time outside than by his side. He didn't accuse her. He didn't raise his voice. He simply said, "You're somewhere else, Claire." "And I'm still here." It broke her, but she didn't confess. Not yet, because there was something worse than guilt. Something more dangerous than a kiss. Claire had begun to feel seen by someone other than her husband. Not just admired, not just understood, but recognized. And in a world full of war and time and ghosts from other centuries, that kind of recognition felt like magic, and magic, once touched, is hard to let go. She knew the line had been crossed. Now she had to choose which side of it she would stand on. Asterisk, she thought she could run from it. Hide it beneath smiles, bury it under duty, silence it with love. But secrets, especially the ones born across time, don't sleep forever. They wait. And when they wake, they destroy. Claire couldn't undo the kiss. She couldn't erase the ache she felt in Thomas's presence or the way her soul stirred when he spoke. But she could try to keep it all contained. She could pretend. She had done it before. Only now, it wasn't just about her heart anymore. It was about the very fabric of time itself. One late afternoon, everything shattered. Claire found Thomas in the stable, tending to a horse with a limp. He shouldn't have been on his feet yet, but there he was, gentle hands, calm voice, like he belonged. Claire watched for a moment, telling herself it was just to check on him. But he turned before she could speak. "I need to show you something," he said. He handed her a folded piece of parchment, old, fragile, written in ink that hadn't yet faded. It wasn't a letter, it was a page from a journal. But not just any journal. Claire recognized the handwriting. It was Brianna's. Her heart froze. It was a warning. A note written and somehow carried across time, a message meant for someone like him. Do not go near her. Do not speak to Claire Fraser. Any change, even a small one, could break everything. Claire's hands trembled. How do you have this?" Thomas looked at her, the weight of centuries in his eyes. "Because I was meant to deliver it, but I failed. I saw you. And I couldn't turn away." Her world collapsed inward. The man who had quietly comforted her, the man who had listened without judgment, who had bled beside her, he wasn't just another traveler. He was a thread pulled too far from the past. And she was the knot that could unravel it all. Claire tried to breathe. "So I'm a danger now? A mistake?" "No," Thomas said, stepping closer. "You're a fixed point, but I'm the ripple. And I can't stay, not if your world is to remain whole." She felt tears rise, angry and helpless. "Then, why kiss me? Why let me fall into something you knew would end in ruin?" His voice broke. "Because for the first time since I fell through time, I felt like I'd belonged." Claire turned away. She couldn't bear to look at him. Not when every word he said made her want to scream and run into his arms at the same time. Not when Jamie's face hovered in her mind, full of loyalty, history, and love that had survived centuries. That night, Claire stood at the edge of the forest, staring into the darkness, her heart tearing in two. Jamie came to her side quietly, as he always had, holding a scarf in his hands. "It's getting cold," he said, wrapping it around her shoulders. She turned to him, and before she could speak, he whispered, "I know something's wrong. I don't know what it is, but I can feel it." She wanted to tell him everything, wanted to pour out the guilt and the sorrow and the fear, but what could she say? That she had kissed a man who didn't belong in their time? That her heart had cracked open for someone she was never supposed to meet? So she said nothing, but Jamie wasn't a fool. His silence spoke louder than her words. "I've fought wars," he said, "but I can't fight what I can't see. Just tell me, Claire, is it too late for us?" Claire's breath caught. She shook her head. "No, but I'm scared. Because I think time has started pulling me apart." And that was the truth. The next morning, Thomas was gone. No note, no goodbye. Just absence. Some said he slipped into the woods. Others claimed he vanished near the standing stones. No one really knew, but Claire felt it. He had left because he had to. Because staying meant risking everything she loved. And because even forbidden's love, if it is true, knows when to walk. Away. Claire returned to Jamie, to her family, to her place in the past, but something inside her had changed. Not regret, not shame, just a scar. From a love that came from nowhere and vanished into time, asterisk,